Привет, товарищ. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Is It Worth My Time? Welcome, everybody. It's Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas. And like I said, it's another episode of Is It Worth My Time? This time, it's the animated movie Superman Red Sun. Welcome, everybody. Let me take care of some business first, and then we will get into it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, you're going to see the very end of this video pop up here. Basically, what YouTube does takes the algorithms, all the stuff you've been watching, and tries to match it as best as possible. One of the videos in my vast video library and pops it up there just for you. Up here is going to be Stargirls. What's going to be up there? If you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at my schedule up there. I change it out every week. And also on that page is all the links to my social media. So Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. No tiers set up as of yet on the Patreon. And also links to this YouTube page and also my Facebook page, which I also mirror my schedule on my Facebook page. And there's also a Facebook group page, which you guys can post stuff on and chat amongst yourselves. So, sorry, I actually had this thing scheduled for yesterday and had a little bit of a headache going on. And today it kind of went into a full blown migraine. So, bear with me if I'm not too into it, too with it, as I should say, which obviously I'm not. So, taking it kind of slow at the moment. Um, as I promised, there's going to be a non-spoiler review first, and then, of course, a spoiler review. So, for the non-spoiler review, for those of you who've read the comic, the original Mark Millar comic that happened in 2003, I believe is what it was. This does not follow the comic faithfully. It has stuff in it that's from the comic. It is, how shall we say, it is inspired by the comic and follows it roughly somewhat, but it is not the comic. It's different than the comic. Um, so for those of you who are not familiar with this, so DC had a line out there called Elseworlds, where they would take familiar characters, change the circumstances of whatever it was. Like Batman has been a vampire before, or Gotham by Gaslamp, which is set Batman in Victorian times. This is what if Superman had crash landed in the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union was in its heyday, of course, and grown up there. That's pretty much what this whole Elseworld thing is about in this movie. And it was very, very popular because of, well, first it was Mark Millar. He was right in his stride when he was writing this. And there was a lot of really interesting stuff that he put in there. So I recently went back and reread the comic because it's been a while for me since I've read the comic, which is also, by the way, on DC Universe. If you have DC Universe, you can watch both the movie and you can also read the comic because they're both on there. And I forgot how good it was. So if you've never read the comic before, yes, it's worth your time. Watch it. It's good. It's not fantastic. It's not like it would have been if it had actually followed the comic, but it's still pretty damn good. Voice acting's good. The animation's great. It's just the ending was kind of, the ending of the book was better than the movie, as everyone always says. And with that, I'm going to say yes, it is worth your time. So, with that said, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the rest of it. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. So, what I didn't like about this movie in relation to the book is they kind of went off and started making Superman look like he was power hungry and power mad and started following Stalin's lead in the movie. In the book, he doesn't follow Stalin's lead. There is nothing to do with gulags. Well, they do kind of mention the gulags a little bit, but only under Stalin, and um, that happened before Superman actually came onto the scene. So yeah, that those kind of stopped when Superman came around. And Stalin does not die by Superman's hand. That's the other thing in the movie is they make him a killer flat out at one point. Whereas in the comic, he is not a killer. Just like Superman is not a killer in the comics. So that was one of the things that really kind of disturbed me is this thing of making Superman a killer just because he grew up in the Soviet Union. And it's like, no, that's not what's the case. Mark Millar actually wove a really rich tapestry. Um, it's only kind of touched on in the movie, but how the Batman comes about. And he doesn't come about from the gulags, he comes about because of Stalin's illegitimate son who murders his parents in front of him and then leaves the kid to fend for himself. And he grows up and becomes Batman. Um, Also, Wonder Woman herself, she actually doesn't uh, go against, she doesn't turn against Superman until she realizes that he's willing to do anything in order to forward the communist ideal at that point. And this is when he forces her to break the lasso. So that's there's some really disturbing stuff in the movie that you could tell whoever wrote it really had a kind of how should I say this, a bent towards showing the Soviet Union as something bad, evil. It's always going to corrupt absolutely kind of thing. When in Mark Millar's book, it's not that way at all. It's the system eventually does break down and everything, but uh, that's kind of where things live. And yes, I am comparing the two, back to back, but you can't. This is one of those things where you can't compare the movie without comparing it to the book because the book was just so damn good. What services are this movie streaming on? So it's on DC Universe, as I said. It's also in the description of this video, by the way. And how I first saw it was on Amazon Prime, I believe. I rented it. So when it first came out, I rented it and watched it that way. Then I watched it again when it just came out on DC Universe. So, and I believe it should be coming to HBO Max. I don't know when, but yeah. And on top of that, in the comic, Diana, Wonder Woman, turns against him and actually leads an Amazonian army against him at one point, following the Green Lanterns. Um, Not so in the movie. And yeah, and she also falls in love with him, which isn't returned in the comic versus the movie where they just kind of go, "Oh, I'm from an island of women, you do the math," kind of thing. And it's just like, oh, where there were some things that just didn't gel right in the movie that could have actually been taken up if you just did an entire 2-hour movie instead of a 90-minute movie. You could have fit everything in, quite honestly. And it would have made it better. And also the ending too. So the ending kind of ends with Luther stepping down from the presidency and putting Jimmy Olsen in charge, who's the vice president. And of course, they take care of communism collapses and democracy takes over the rest of the world. That's not what happens in the book. In the book, Luther realizes that communism and democracy, or capitalism actually, don't work. And he comes up with Lutheranism for the entire world, which is something that no one's ever seen before and actually uh, cures a lot of ills, shall we say. He also ends up curing cancer. He cures pretty much everything within months. And then finally, he invents a pill that allows people, they don't need to sleep anymore. They become what is it? Where they live to 800 years of age, that kind of thing in the book. Uh, and that isn't done in the movie. They don't, and they also don't tie in a certain loop, shall we say, in the movie, a time loop. I'm not going to tell you everything that happens in the book because the book is actually really, really well done and something you should read. If you haven't read it, people always ask me, what book should I read? You know, what kind of comic should I read? What do you recommend? Red Sun, Superman Red Sun is one of those books that is a classic. It is something that you should read if you haven't read it. And again, that's also on DC Universe, so you can read it there. Um, so yeah, I almost talked myself out of this saying that it's worth watching, but if you haven't experienced the book, it's worthwhile to experience the movie. The movie, like I said, is not perfect, but you can watch the movie and then go and read the book. That's the way you should do it at this point. Yeah. So is it worth your time? Yes, it is. It's worth your time. It's only 90 minutes. Um, and like I said, there's some really, really good stuff in the book. Um, in the movie, I'm trying to think of any changes they might have made that worked. And honestly, I can't think of any. I mean, other than the gulag thing and having him killed, that's a misstep as far as I'm concerned, is having Superman kill Stalin. It just, I mean, in the book, he dies of poison. He gets poisoned, and Superman's not around to save him because he was off doing something else. So, yeah, a little bit of a different thing there. And then also the omission of Pierre, Peter, basically Peter, uh, the illegitimate son of Stalin, who was the head of the secret police and all that kind of stuff, and isn't in the movie, and he is in the book, and that actually kind of creates another layer of things and gives a little more depth, which is what the movie needed. The movie needed just a little bit more depth to it, and I think a different writer would have helped. So, unfortunately, I don't think they could get Mark Millar for that one because he's doing his own thing now. He's got the Millarverse happening, and yeah, he's doing some really good stuff with that Millarverse. So they had Superman kill the Man of Steel. Huh, not really. I don't call him the Man of Steel. Uh, just a very horrible human being. That's all it is. So, what else have I got going on this week? Trying to think here. Tomorrow is going to be the return of these guys behind me, Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol season 2, episode 1 is going to happen tomorrow. Um, Friday, of course, is the season finale of Harley Quinn, season 2 of Harley Quinn. Saturday is Saturday morning blast off. Where I take the genre news of the week and any other genre stuff you guys want to talk about, and we talk about it. Sunday, I'm off. Monday is Stargirl, DC Universe's Stargirl. Tuesday is going to be the return of That's Where Is It Worth My Time is, and I'll think about what's going to happen next week, and I'll let you guys know when I put it up on the schedule which one I'm going to cover. And then, of course, Wednesday I'm off, and Thursday wraps around again to Doom Patrol. So there we go. Stalin means Man of Steel. Oh, okay, got it. I didn't know, Philip. I know Stahl in German means steel, Stahl, which is a last name as well, a last name that's used. And don't ask me, it's actually from Permanent Midnight. The book Permanent Midnight is where I got that from, and there's a very deranged way of how that ties together. So I'm not even gonna go into it because yeah, it's just demented. Uh, in that book, oh my god, man, that's a fucking depressing book. Permanent Midnight. It's a good book, but it's just really fucking depressing. So thank you everybody who joined me today in the chat. tonight in the chat, I should say. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. Um, Remember, if you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video at the very end of this. If you like what you see there, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, hit the bell down below here. Or best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com, take a look at my schedule and all the links to my social media. So that's Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. So I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Thank you again. I will see you tomorrow for Doom Patrol Season 2. Again, that's on DC Universe and HBO Max. So it's going to be on both of those different streaming platforms. So until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may end up, I don't know, a Superman robot, which no one really wants to have happen because that's some pretty bad shit right there. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Take care.